Well, here we are, everybody. We're going to be discussing the Avengers Endgame Spoilercast. There's going to be a lot of stuff in here that is clearly spoilers, guys. This is spoilers. Please turn away if you haven't seen the movie. Oh God, I can't stress that enough. We're going to spoil just about everything in this film.
Yeah, we're going to make sure continuously throughout this for anybody who's new coming in that we're saying we're talking about spoilers.
Yep. So, of course, this is your host, Armin. You guys can find me at Armini's, wherever the hell I'm at. I'm not going to list it all off. I'm, of course, here with Mitch.
What's up? You can find me crying on Twitter at Mitch692.
And also Shay.
Hey guys, you can find me at Michelle1602 on Instagram and once in a while Twitter.
There we go. So, with that in mind, we're just going to kick it straight into Avengers Spoilercast. Be warned, this show is not really going to maintain a topic of discussion or topics per se. We're just going to jump around every single thing. So,
exactly like the movie did.
Just like the movie. So, let's just get into it. So, just to start this, let's do a little bit of box office before we get into the core spoilers. It literally blew away expectations by making $400 million more in its opening weekend than the top analysts predicted.
Yep. Was it 1.22 billion?
Yep.
Total?
Yep.
It's
a lot of money.
Yeah, it's too much money, really.
It's a crazy amount of money. And the fact that it doesn't even seem like it's going to be slowing down when it comes to this weekend. Like, we were sitting there talking with people, and we had our friends go on different days for showings, and our little theater was literally selling out every single showing all weekend, which has never been heard of before.
Just so people understand, this upcoming weekend, even when it sees like a 50 to 60% drop, the film is going to be doing the same amount of crowd that any other MCU film has done on opening weekend. That's how big this monster is going to be. Like,
some people are saying like it might be less than 50%.
My lord,
it could just come underneath it.
Just that is, it's literally
it's nuts.
Like defying what box office means. That's kind of like insane. And I know a lot of people have been predicting about it, so I guess we'll roll that in here. Personal feelings, do you think it will take down Avatar? I said in a video I made that it will. I'm standing by that. I think it has a very strong chance of doing it.
Same. So people are going on about the cinema score and like how an A+ cinema score never has less than a 3 times multiplier. Or it's like a 2.96. So if it's going to be close at least.
Yep.
I really feel like it's going to completely just wipe it out of the top spot because of the fact that in our theater alone, we have never seen anything like this.
We've never seen a full screen sellout other than an Avengers movie, much less 2 screens, so they had to open up a third one.
No, they opened up 5 screens.
Right, and it was by the weekend, they had 6 screens all selling out. Like, we came on Friday, and we were an hour early, and the showings were all sold out. Lucky the people right behind us need to return them for the next day, so we were able to score extra tickets. But it's nonstop. Like, I had to go take a piss at one point during the second showing. I stepped out. There was a line all the way in the lobby, multiple lines for theaters, including outside bending around the theater. Like, I've never seen this type of cultural impact for a movie.
Well, no, it's like when when the midnight showing came up for the UK, like my local one that I go to like the most never has more than 1. There was 4. If you look at the cinema where Civil War had its premiere over here, they had 9, and they were all gone. Yeah. So and like even now, like next weekend or this coming weekend for this movie, all sold out. Monday sold out because it's a bank holiday over here. So
yep, I've seen a lot of people talking about it, and the thing is, I think this is kind of a monster just when you look at it and compare it to what's happened with other movies coming out. Now, Pokemon and Godzilla are tracking way less than they were weeks ago because of this. Because people are like, no, the Avengers effect is literally going to be stronger than we've ever seen.
What's Pikachu at? Because it was at 90 million a couple of weeks ago.
It's down to 70.
Really? Christ.
Yep.
Well, even think about the fact that the hype from this movie made Captain Marvel do the impossible, which was towards the end of its movie career, it went up in box office.
On its 8th week, it jumped from 6th to 2nd. Like, what the hell?
It got like 8.5 million. Like, that's nuts.
That's insane.
Movies don't do that.
No, like this is very uncommon. Like, I think that's what the MCU has done now. It's proven the impossible possible, and it's like, no, this thing is just going to be unstoppable, and that's
like, just because your movie's 3 hours doesn't mean you're going to make less.
I think this is going to show theaters that you shouldn't fear 3 hours as long as the fans are behind you. You know, like same with studios and everybody, or at least Disney. Disney's comfortable.
Yeah. So, you know, like Return of the King was 3 hours plus, and it's still made over $1 billion, but you know, it's taken us like 20 years to get back.
Oh, yeah. Yep. So any closing words on box office before we get to the meat of the film?
It's outrageous.
Yeah.
But in like a good way.
The only thing that can stop it is the Snyder Cut. Yeah, okay. So I guess box office talk is over. Let's get into the actual core spoiler cast of everything. So, Endgame. Where do we want to start?
I mean, I think you kind of got to start at the beginning. Like, if we try and run down the movies that happens, I think it's probably your best bet instead of like jumping around everywhere.
Yeah, but... oh my gosh, the fact that the movie opens and it's Hawkeye's family getting dusted, I'm like, no, why would you do this to me?
Right.
I'd like to point out that I called that on last week's show.
Oh, yeah. Well,
the last show that happened,
they started off and the theater was just shock and awe. And it was like, oh, God, no. And
mine was just silence. You couldn't hear a pin drop again. And it's like, I remember this feeling from a year ago.
It was brutal. And a perfect way to do it, because it's like, yes, we're picking up right where we left off. And then that 3-week jump was also perfect. Because, like, it brings us up to, they're still mourning and, like, in shock, you know? Like, they don't know what to do.
Yeah. And speaking of that 3 weeks, or the 22-day jump, whatever it was, are we to assume the Captain Marvel post-credit scene happens then? Or is it just not kind of...
Yep.
That's,
I mean, how did she, like, when she brings Tony there, right? Everybody knows her. They're not questioning who the hell she is. So clearly that scene just got removed, and it's like... Yeah, okay, whatever. Like, it was a post-credit scene, so if you watch, you just go, oh, I know where that takes place.
Yeah, especially because for that exact reason, like, nobody is shocked. Everybody is like... And also, how would she have known where to go if they didn't tell her where they kind of were to begin with? So it's really amazing, though, how it goes from that. They probably sat there and spent that time trying to figure out exactly where Tony was. That's why they were able to start the movie, and here it is. It's we found Tony and he's home. Now let's talk about the repercussions and just of what happened.
Thinking of that scene, though, if they would have put that scene in the movie, it would have derailed the pace of it. Because
I mean, the pacing was already like that.
Exactly.
Like those first 20 minutes are just non-stop. It was,
they are.
It's just like, calm down a little bit. But then you got like 3 hours of just general normal pacing.
Yep. No, it was handled really well in those regards. And obviously the building up, to each character, because what I like was the transitions in the film are so smooth because the dialogue perfectly leads you to the next scene, and that was every single transition. Like, there was nothing that came out of left field. Like, how they end a line is how they pick up the next one. It's just... Like, this film, you got to give it to the writers and the director, or just give it to everybody because
I say, like, a lot of people just, like, they're all fair enough. It's the Russos who directed it, but like, give Marcus and McFeely credit,
right? Yeah,
like they, without them, this movie wouldn't have happened.
No, not at all.
Well, it's really phenomenal because if you stop and you think about every single movie that came before, they all had to sit there and some point or another come together and be like, okay, this is how we're going to end it. Now we have to make sure that the Russos direct the same way that every other director directed those particular scenes, because when we sit there and we eventually have the time jumps, it doesn't feel like, oh, different people filmed these originally. Right. It feels like it's always been the same cast.
Everything clicks in together. Like you could tell it's a well-oiled machine of talking to each other. And like they said, for Spider-Man, they're like, oh, talk to the, Watts. For Thor, talk to Taika and talk to Chris Hemsworth so we know their feelings and what direction they want to take the characters in. It's like, that's clearly reflected in this. And the scene that got me that really I thought was like, damn, this movie's going for it. I loved when Scott Lang gets out and he goes to see his daughter. And there's that moment where she's like, oh my God, you're not dead. And he hugs her. I'm like, you know, as someone who's a father, and it's like if that happened, you're just like, ooh, like.
So imagine not recognizing your own kid.
Right. Oh.
No,
Yeah.
that's got to be horrible.
God damn.
Well, it's like we sit there and we obviously have pictures of our daughter when she was little and now big, and it's just breathtaking to see, okay, let's go back 5 years and
Yeah.
see what happened. And it's like she's almost unrecognizable from her like baby face to
Yeah.
adulting face, like starting to adult
Right.
face.
It's kind of crazy, and it's like that, and that's what the movie does, I think, well. Like when we see Nat, for example, right, during that time-year gap, she is so out of it and destroyed that she never dyes her hair back. She just lets it grow out, and like
Yeah.
you could see the blonde at the bottom. You're like, wow, she is literally what you would consider a hot mess. Like,
Well, she's eating just a peanut butter sandwich. Like, that's how nutritious and everything she's totally thinking about. Like, it devastated everybody. So they sat there and they defeat Thanos by chopping his head off. And
Which, like, how have we got a decapitation like that in a Marvel movie?
whoa,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's even a little blood squirt from his neck as it happens. It's disgusting.
well,
Marvel
it
is
sits there-
for the children.
it sat there and it hit like Nebula in her face, and she just like wipes it off, and it's like, wait, what? But they're obviously too late, and they sit there and they're like, what do we do? And they obviously all just break down and are like, well, we have to try finding normal. What is normal?
Which,
like,
speaking of that, you know, that we had the time jump, the 5-year, which we've known about for like what, like a year and a half.
I was like,
2
it
years?
was heavily rumored. Like
Yeah.
a lot of the plot to this movie was leaked when Infinity War came out.
It was, yep. So, the time jump really awesome because now we're so far in the future. You know, we're like 4 years, 5 years in the future from where it is. It gives us a lot of room to play with, which clearly we see some of the TV series and stuff are going to touch upon that. But
I don't think they are.
well, I mean, Shield looks like it's going to.
Shield's a year after Endgame.
Well,
well, from
'cause-
I thought it was a year after the snap.
right, because that's what the latest the report said. They're like, oh, it's a year
Is it?
after Coulson was thought dead.
Which
So I was reading it was all going to be a year after Endgame, but
Oh, well, I guess we'll find out when it comes back.
I suppose it's what next week, so
Yeah,
not going
yeah.
to wait.
We'll talk about it when it's back. And that's kind of a big deal with how far of a leap they take because we see what the status quo is. It's go. You know, Captain Marvel, she's out there defending the galaxy. Namor is clearly about to siege Wakanda. I don't care what you tell me. It's
So
gonna happen.
I don't think anyone didn't jump straight to Namor at that
Dude,
point.
it was so... Like, you could have said anything, but the fact you jumped straight to that dialogue, I was like, oh, you're teasing me?
And with someone from Wakanda. You
Yep.
could have put that with anyone else and it would have been meaningless. But the
Yep.
fact that it was specifically there, it's like, yeah, come on.
And the fact that they've been putting them into every comic they can and giving them
Yeah.
covers. Yeah, he
Yeah.
my boy's coming.
and you
So
have-
he got a redesign. He looks the best he's ever done. So
Yep.
Yeah, and you have Nat being like, well, go figure it out, and she's like, it's in the middle of the ocean. What do you want me to do? Swim down there? Like,
we handle it by handling it.
yeah,
Earthquake.
and then of course, like, that could potentially lead into what's going to start going on in Black Panther 2. Like,
Yeah.
it's so close to Wakanda that it can't be a
Right.
coincidence.
No, it can't. And I think that's what a lot of this movie did, specifically with some of these scenes, like Captain Marvel, obviously she's out there fighting. So now we know in that 5-year gap, that's where they could put Captain Marvel 2 or 3, you know, like
Yep.
they got a lot of room to play with time. And I think it was kind of like, when I think about the Hawkeye series, for example, I'm like, oh, they could focus on him training his daughter, plus they could show what he was doing.
It's Kate Bishop who's training in this show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh, okay. Because I thought they were just going to make her Kate, but I guess not, because her name is like Isla?
because his daughter's played by I want to say it's Joe Russo's kid. So they're not going to bring her back because she's not really like an actress. So
That's
it's
true. Which, you know,
Yeah.
fair enough. I'll take it.
I will
And
say,
also, like, training Kate is a nice way to pay off and honor what happens later on with Hawkeye in the movie.
That is
But
true.
we can get to that later on.
yeah. What I really like though is they're also hinting to other things that are happening in the comics, like Carol and Rhodes. the way that they kind of looked at each other and the way that she made sure she stayed to say goodbye to him, didn't care about saying goodbye to Nebula, Rocket, or anybody else, and she wanted to make sure he was safe. So I kind of really hope that they play a little along with that they do build a bond, a friendship, potentially a relationship. I would love that.
Or at least, like, you know, they don't have to have a relationship, but at least really good, respectable friends because they're both military and whatnot. Like, that's a really good way to take it and show, like, you know, both of them kind of moving on with, well, spoiler, I guess. Spoiler alert, but loss of someone significant to Rhodes and, you know, like, yeah. So, speaking of that, the plot of the movie is obviously what... Mitch, me and you literally predicted this like a podcast after.
I was going to say, I believe it's the Infinity War Spoilercast we did, or it was the one after that. Like, we're talking about where it goes, and I literally said, you know, they're going to go back and get the stones.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, it's going to be a time heist where they have to split the team up and do it at the same time to be able to throw off Thanos, and it's like, it came out to exactly that. But what really worked for me was the fact that we develop on a lot of the old movies in a unique, different perspective. Like, retroactively, it made the Dark World a little better due to the mom just kind of like, oh, she died. And you're like, oh, she never had a moment with Thor. Well, she actually did have a moment with Thor.
Yeah.
Like,
she had more dialogue in that one scene in the entire Dark World.
So good.
And I like that they did. They had that ability to close doors because we have Thor, who his mom, I didn't know, was raised by witches and has foresight of the future and things like that. So, well, I didn't know that. Now his mom is like more badass, but like they had their moment. And then here you have Tony and Cap. They have to go back in even further in time. They both have their moments of Cap seeing Peggy Carter, and then Tony being able to finally have the words he always wanted with his father. And I sat there and I'm like, I'm melting because Tony now understands what it's like to be a father. He has his daughter who's 5 years old, and he's sitting there and realizes his dad did do everything for him. He didn't think he did, but here is his dad being like, I haven't even met my son yet, and all I want to do is everything to make him proud and to do it for him. And it's so heartwarming to see that because the Iron Man, or no, not even Iron Man, Avengers, Age of Ultron, he sit there and he's just like already still kind of dumping down on his dad in that movie until he sits there, he's like, oh, you killed my mom. So he didn't have a connection with his dad, and he finally was able to have that respect.
Civil War. Okay. I'm like, wait, what? No, that was Civil War.
Sorry, Civil War. He was finally able to have that connection with his dad.
They tie it all the way back around to these, like, kind of moments we wanted to see, you know? Like, and that was kind of really cool. Like, for example, we get to see Hank Pym, and he has the OG helmet, which is freaking awesome.
Oh, my God, it was beautiful.
I freaked out for that one hardcore. Like, it was so cool.
Not a lot of people caught that one.
Half of our first showing of the theater did. They were all like...
So, love that scene.
I love the comedy around those areas, too.
Yeah.
America's Ass. Oh, my gosh. That is the now most memed thing everywhere.
I say, you can tell they read Twitter.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, God,
because his ass is literally a meme at this point.
Yep. And that's kind of like having that awareness to bring that around because the Marvel movies are so memeable. Like they brought back Hail Hydra in that scene, you know?
Oh, my gosh. And they did that.
But just like speaking of, like, you know, Age of Ultron and Civil War, I did not expect the amount of payoff they'd get at the start of this movie.
Same. Yep.
You know, like Tony literally just comes in and he was like, oh, look, I was right. We needed this around the world. You know, like with Civil War, you weren't there. You said we'd lose together. Like, you weren't there.
Like I told people, by the time Endgame wraps up, the whole point of Age of Ultron will be looked back as, oh, wow, that movie set up so much to be paid off. It's a middle chapter. Like, people forget, Empire Strikes Back was very disliked by critics at the time because it was a setup movie that pays off down the road. Same thing how I'm feeling about Last Jedi. Like, you have to wait and see the final chapter to bring it all around because the middle chapter sets up the ending. And, like, there was so much payoff, like the broken shield, the suit around the world. Like,
I'll say both like Cap and Tony's visions paid off.
Yep.
Like their closure is those visions.
Yep. And
essentially, so.
Especially us just rewatching all those, watching it again, and you're like, oh my gosh, they literally tell you the entire future without telling you the entire future.
Age of Ultron's the biggest spoiler you'll ever see, and it was 4 years ago.
Yep. It's kind of insane. And speaking of that, let's talk a little bit about like the aspects of, I guess, the MCU kind of, and what they did in this movie, because as much as they're paying respect off to everything that's come before and paying off things like Age of Ultron and little tidbits here, like you had Hulk finally, right? Who's had this complete like turnaround of his character, and Bruce finally even says it in this. I've realized that it wasn't like, let's battle with each other, let's unite and become one. And
it wasn't
honestly,
a disease.
Right. I love the Hulk in this movie.
Same.
I love the Hulk, but I kind of really agree with Valkyrie.
Oh, she liked him either way.
Yeah.
I liked him either way, but this is like, I don't understand this.
Seeing the fact that the Hulk, this tough, monstery, scary thing, right, is now dabbing because he's the nerd, cool dad Hulk. That is the most perfect thing I've ever seen. I love it.
And they handle it really well, because some people are like, oh, I would have liked to have seen that. So, fair enough. Like, I probably could have seen it myself. But Scott Lang being like, I'm so confused.
Yeah.
Like, it puts you in that moment, and, they're doing exactly how you're feeling, so it works.
Right. And that's kind of a thing. Now, let's talk about one big point of discussion I want to talk about. Majority of the people I've talked to hate Thor.
I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
There's finally someone in a superhero movie that has the same body as me.
Okay,
I'm relating hard here.
That's exactly what I love. And here's the thing: do people not realize him being overweight and having a giant gut? He was still worthy to call down Mjolnir, and not only that, he might be overweight, but he can stand toe-to-toe with the Titan and his fellow Avengers. It's literally telling you don't need a six-pack and to be a bodybuilder to be an Avenger. Like,
it's also a really good depiction of depression.
Exactly.
He has after taking Thanos' arm and head off at the start of this movie, he has a breakdown.
Yeah.
Well, because he sat there and if he would have done what Thanos told him to do originally, go for the head, hence why when he chopped his head off, he was like, I went for the head. But it was already too late. So the fact that he feels personally responsible, because he was supposed to be the one to defeat Thanos. He was the one, he had Stormbreaker. It was the one to be able to kill him.
But he wanted those final words and didn't go for the head because he was cocky.
I say, as Marcus McFeely pointed out in one of their interviews, he's always on a revenge quest.
Yep.
And he did it in Infinity War, and he screws it up, and then he gets his revenge, but it's hollow.
Yeah.
And that's why it hits him so hard. And everyone going like, who eats a bowl of bread? It's like, well, he eats a bowl of bread because he's having a breakdown. Yep. And that's why he's fat.
Well, you sit there and if anybody's had a bad day, obviously a lot of people meme this about women. You sit there and you have a bad day or you're PMSing. What do? You go for a tub of ice cream.
Right.
That is a big thing. People all over the world don't want to admit, or they do realize that food is one of our things that a lot of people go to. It wasn't even just food. He became an alcoholic. He wouldn't even step foot or even talk to them without knowing that, there's beer on the other end. He didn't even want to be on Asgard until he was like, my father has a really good cellar of beer here.
Right. He's completely become a different character. He's probably one of the most real in this because of what they did. And people are like, the writers and the directors. Actually, they asked Chris Hemsworth what he thinks Thor would do, and that was his idea. He was like, no, I want to put on, be fatter and be lazier and be this character because of the mental confrontation he's doing. And that's something very powerful that they can represent that. It's I love Thor personally in this. I get some of the complaints because people are like, he's not big and chiseled. It's like, look, you've had that for the entire MCU. Just shut up.
It's like, what I don't get is people say that they played him off as a joke. The only reason why he's fat is for a joke. It's it's not.
No.
It's purely for character reasons. You see that when Hulk says Thanos.
Yep.
And like he just grabs him. He's like, "You don't say that name." Like we don't say that, and he's on the verge of tears. And then when he has the scene with his mother, and it's just like it's all for that. They're not playing it off purely for a joke. They're not fat shaming anyone.
No, there's like Armin said, they're still showing that you can be worthy, as long as you have truth in your heart and you're trying to do something for the good. You can be worthy enough to be an Avenger. You can be able to stand up for the little guys and help defeat a massive threat. It's really, he's actually one of probably the most powerful on top of that, because he got over his self-pity, being able to talk to his mother and have that closure, which, if you realize, that was his biggest issue all the way throughout the entire thing. Is
it literally makes the Dark World stronger.
It does. This is another time where the Russo brothers look at a thing and they go, let's make that old movie people didn't like stronger, like they've done multiple times with Iron Man 2. That's their kind of talent in this, which I really like. And that kind of brings us to the next character. Let's talk about Captain America then. So his arc in this, oh man, like...
This has been building since Winter Soldier.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think Peggy has a line in that where she's like, "I don't have many regrets, but one regret." Oh no, it's something like I've lived a life. My one regret is that you didn't get to live yours.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the time travel and stuff. We're not doing that here. We're going to talk about that on the main show because that's a whole topic for itself. But Cap's arc is obviously rather important in here because Steve ends up, fulfilling what he wanted to. He's led the Avengers, he's assembled them all, and then he passes the shield, so it's pretty significant because Captain America isn't done. It's a mantle that's passed, but Steve's journey is complete.
But here's the thing, they can bring Steve back.
Oh, yes, they can.
If you go to the whole bit where they're testing out the time travel, I know we jumped around this movie when we were going to start from the beginning. But when they're testing it with Scott, and they're sliding time through him, you can just do that to Steve.
Yes, you can.
You can maybe recast him if he doesn't want to come back for it, but there you go.
Exactly. Like, they're open to those possibilities. So, what was your guys' take on Captain America's journey in this?
I loved it. I don't get people saying it's a character assassination in the slightest. Yeah. It's like no, if anything, he's paying, he's honoring what Tony said he should always do. Yes, Tony was kind of taking the piss out of him with that, but he's just seen what's happened, so he's kind of like, you know what, I've got to do this. Seeing Peggy in the 70s as well, it's like you have to go back.
Yeah, he's finally being able to do what he has regretted. He has always put America first and the people and his safety first, and he realizes now, like, the biggest threat they were able to remove. Like, Thanos and the stones were the biggest threat. And now they're safe from being able to not have the people anymore.
Not just that, there's the significant moment of when he yells Avengers Assemble. He realizes that he doesn't need to be one of the Avengers anymore. There's plenty of them and they can take care of their own, as it's shown. Like, the new generation can come forward and I've led it to here. I've done what I need to, but now there's literally a woman who will rip through this entire ship without a problem. Like, he's realized that they've come a long way, And
also, it sticks true to what both Captain America and Iron Man are. They are the opposite. To each other. Steve's an Avenger, Tony's a protector. That's their philosophy, and in the end, it kind of switches. Like Tony sacrifices himself, Steve. He has a bit of selfishness. He's like, no, I've earned this bit. I'm done fighting. I can't fight anymore. I have to go back.
Well, he also, if you sit there and you think about it, yes, Bucky is his best friend, but so is Tony. And he had to sit there and watch Tony die, leaving a family behind. And he was like, I don't even have anything besides Bucky, and I've lost him twice now. And I don't have a family. I don't have anything. So he now has that availability to have something that is true and has been true.
Right. He saw the opportunity. He's like, look, I can finally do what I've wanted to, and he learns from Tony because Tony's been telling him, here's what you should do. Like, both characters learn from one another because Cap was always willing to make the sacrifice play, and that came around to Iron Man being like, I need to be the one to make the sacrificial play. Like, it's the characters bounce around so well off each other and how their arcs come around in reverse. Like, it's perfect. I have this feeling when I go back and start, when we rewatch the entire MCU from beginning to end in the, correct timeline order, there's going to be so many little things we pick up on. We're going to be like, oh, God. Like, it's a perfect payoff to 21 films before it. And especially for the two main leads. And I would include Thor in that now as well, considering his arc in this was pretty perfect for him as well.
Yeah, and Thor gets to carry on, which I think he should,
Oh, God, yeah.
Like, if out of the three of them, Thor is the one that there's too much to tell because, he's a god.
Exactly.
Yeah, and he's already lived 1,000 years, so he's going to live thousands more.
At least 1,500.
Yeah.
As he says in Infinity War.
He's old.
So,
what other aspects of the movie you want to talk about besides just the three main characters?
I want to really talk about the Black Widows and Hawkeye scenes. So the fact that, like, those two have been friends and they've always kind of bounced off of each other throughout this movie. They have really been like the almost, I would say, B to C list people, because neither of them have had their own movie, but we have grown watching them. Yet they probably have, again, one of the most powerful scenes in this movie because it's those two going after the Soul Stone.
And I've seen some people upset at the movie, naturally, because there's always fandoms out there that ship people together. Those two were hardcore shipped together before it was ever revealed in Age of Ultron that he had a family. So they were like, see, they clearly love each other, so why do you need his family? I was like, the point isn't there. He loves her as much as you can love another human being that you're not in love with, right? Like, they're literally almost brother and sister. That's the type of love. That's why they could sacrifice one another or let the other one go to get what they need.
But that's the beat of the scene. They're not sacrificing anything. They're saving.
Saving, exactly.
Yeah. Like, and you're saving it because of the fact that you love them.
Right.
Yeah.
And I felt bad for this scene. Not because, like, I was emotionally like, oh, God, oh, God, oh, God. But I felt bad because I was cheering for Nat to jump. Because I like Hawkeye more. And I was like, I'm such a terrible person, but I want her to die.
See, I was in that moment. I was like, we have a Hawkeye show and we have a Black Widow movie.
Right.
It's like, how are they playing this out? Like, something's got to happen. And it's like, oh no, she actually is dead.
She's dead. Like, yeah, that was kind of like when the camera pans down and I see her and the blood splat everywhere, I was like, oh, okay, now I feel bad. Now it's hitting me. She's dead.
Honestly, it hit me more when I saw Hawkeye's reaction.
Oh, when he says please as she's just slipping off. Oh.
Yep.
And then when he has the Soul Stone and his anger about the fact that she was left, and you can even see, like, after when he comes back alone, it's the team's like, what happened? And because everyone forgot, because the only people who actually knew that the Soul Stone was needing to have a sacrifice was Nebula and Tony.
No, Nebula and Tony don't know that.
No, Nebula did.
No, she doesn't. She doesn't know that
knew
Thanos has to sacrifice Gamora. All she knows is that Thanos killed Gamora there.
Yep. Yeah. But none of them knew what the actual need of it was. That was kind of the thing, like, because as Red Skull tells them, it's like, oh, that's why. Because I'm assuming if they knew, one of them would have straight up just jumped off without warning to save the other one.
Yeah.
So it's in Red Skull's dialogue there, which I thought was pretty awesome as well. Like, his kind of involvement with that. And he's just like watching them. He's like, yeah. Who's
just
gonna
like, can you get on with it? Like,
yeah.
It's like, come on, please. Like,
I gotta go float away, bros. Come on.
But
Domino's is closing in 20 minutes. Like, come on.
I also though like that because of the fact that we really didn't have a good closure or continuation of Nat and the Hulk. That showed you that Banner still loved Nat.
Yeah.
Even though they went their separate ways, he loved her, like, almost unconditionally. And he tried, like, his dialogue at the end of the movie was, I literally tried as hard as I could, but you were right. She can't come back.
I have a question about that.
Yep.
They could use that to bring her back.
I
Just
think
because
so.
she doesn't show up doesn't
Right.
mean that she doesn't necessarily come back. And
Yeah.
It's plus there's some other bits that kind of allude to
Here's,
time
like-
not being right. So.
Right, exactly, which we'll talk about that in the main show when we get to those topics. But one thing that bugged me about the whole Black Widow banner thing was I remember distinctly when Age of Ultron came out, a lot of people hated that, and I loved that they formed a relationship. I'm like, look, if you watch the Avengers, she literally breaks down and can't function because of the Hulk because she's afraid. So they built a relationship on him getting closer to her, showing her that she can control the monster. Like, and there's payoff in this with Bruce Banner and how he feels and his reaction, which, again, Age of Ultron, really important movie. You should go back and watch that now, knowing how this ends, and look for the pieces. There's a lot of foreshadowing and build-up, and who Black Widow is, and the little subtle details, and
I bet you she was also the one who continued encouraging Banner to try figuring out about the Hulk, because, like she says, you've done the impossible already. Like,
Yep.
And you can tell she's doing it in a cute flattery, like, you've done it. Like, you
Yeah.
Doesn't she
continue
mention
doing
something
it.
about a monster in this movie?
Oh god, I can't remember.
I swear she does a flip of one the lines where she says you're not the only monster on this team.
Yes, she
yeah.
does.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it wasn't to... No, it was one of the other movies. She does state that. It was when Banner and Nat were talking about leaving and never coming back. They were just
that's
going
Age
to
of
leave.
Ultron, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and she stated her history and what happened and how she was basically castrated. And was just like, you're not the only monster, because she was built to be an assassin monster.
And they kind of built her up as like a little heartless assassin, but in this we see her arc carry her against that.
And yet again, her arc here pays off Age of Ultron.
Yep.
That little scene where she's saying she can't have a family.
Yep.
In this, she calls them her family.
Exactly.
And her sacrificing herself is literally saving her family.
And
so
at the same time, we see Hawkeye's arc in this. He literally became Frank Castle.
Yep.
Like,
yeah.
Now the Avengers could literally have Frank and be like, well, there's nothing wrong with what you do, bro. Like, it's okay. Like,
Which, shout out to that one-shot scene for Ronan.
yeah, that was great.
That was a really cool little scene.
And also the actor they got for the Asian guy he's fighting, I can't ever remember his name, but I'm a really big fan of his and everything he's in. So good. I would love to see him, more of him, maybe if they do some flashback show or something. I don't know, but they're so good. Like, all the Avengers, I thought, had the proper payoff I wanted in this.
Yeah.
Like, at least the main ones, obviously.
Well, the original six, it was their story that they got their payoff. Their stories of that first arc.
Right.
Yep.
So
that's why the credit scene was literally them signing off.
Literally taken from Star Trek 6. Because Kevin Feige loves Star Trek.
Yep. So after that, let's go to, there was a time heist. They do everything. Where things go wrong is where, 2014 Nebula comes back in time, because they're connected through a Neuralink.
It's the same network. Wi-Fi network.
Right. And she brings through Thanos, the Black Order, before they're ever killed or anything. And this is one thing I've seen a lot of complaints about. People are like, Thanos is a non-villain. He was better in Infinity War. I'm like, well, in Infinity War, he's 4 years aged since Guardians. Of course he's not the same character. In this, he's just a brutal killing machine, like he was trying to be back in Guardians.
It's like we've seen the philosophical Thanos
exactly
in the last movie. This one we're seeing the relentless, you can't really stop me Thanos.
Exactly.
And he even states that he was like, I used to sit there and kill not because I wanted to, because it needed to be done. And now here I am. I'm going to kill you for fun, because he knows what they're going to do to him.
And also, when he sees that message, he knows that he wins. So he gets really cocky. He's like, oh, I won.
If you knew you're going to win in the future, you're going to take out the people that stop it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just go back to the whole Nebula bit. That is such a smart mechanic for the movie to have.
It is.
It's they're obviously going to share the same network. Let's just put a little stripe on Nebula so you can tell the two apart.
Yep.
And obviously play about that later on, but
which then brings us obviously to that giant, battle where everything goes. This is all the characters, and it's like fighting for the Infinity Stones, which have been retreated through time, and
and they already did the snap, and they can see certain people are back because the birds are back.
Howard the Duck is in the battle.
I didn't see him.
Yep, he's right behind Wasp.
Yeah, as she pops up, the Ravengers are coming out on her the right hand side of the screen.
Yeah, I saw
and there's
them.
Literally a split frame where one walks past and he's right there.
Howard the damn Duck is in Avengers. We've hit peak cinema, folks. Go home. We're never topping this.
Howard the Duck saved the universe.
Yep. Let that sink in, guys. And that scene, honestly,
the music though, at Alan Silvestri's portals as they start opening, and then just that entire build up to Avengers Assemble bit is perfect.
Yeah.
Our theater literally, after you start hearing Sam, Cap, hey Cap, can you hear me? On your left, and then here's Black Panther, then here's Sam, then here's Spider-Man.
When Spider-Man did the little stand up, I've never heard a theater more deafening amount of claps and cheers and yells. I literally thought I was going to start bleeding from the ears. It was like the most surreal movie moment
ever. It was
ever.
so cute because he's like, look, I can now prove that I'm an Avenger, and he did his I gotta be strong, I gotta do my Avenger pose.
Oh, Peter was so good at this.
I will say, once, obviously the battling starts, just to kind of keep on Peter. When Peter finally found Iron Man, and he was just like, Mr. Stark, I found you. You remember when I was, dusting? I must have, fallen asleep or something.
And I love that they give that to Peter to tell you how and what happened to them. It's so simple, but it's in a kid manner. So it's because if Doctor Strange would have done it,
it would have been
a complex explanation of time. It's no, let Peter do it because he's 16, right?
And it also shows you, a lot of people have missed it, that time hasn't passed for them at all.
Yeah.
It's literally been seconds.
Yeah, and I like that that's how they explained it. And he's like, I woke up and you weren't there, and apparently it's been 5 years. So he's like, let's go. They need us. We need to help save the world.
And again, for people wondering here, we're going to talk about the fallout of the 5 years in the main podcast. So make sure you follow up on that, please, just so you guys are aware. Dude, that giant battle.
Hold on, the hug.
Can that actually get topped?
No, that entire fight is art. And I do not use that lightly. That shot where, before everyone comes in, and you've had your little Trinity fight with Thanos, which, is probably one of the best bits in the movie itself. But then there's Cap with the broken shield. He's on one side, and then it's the entire army on the other.
Mm-hmm.
I'm certain they used the same technology or stuff they used for Thor Ragnarok with the Valkyrie flashback. It looked very similar to that, but that shot is stunning.
And not just that, the imagery of the shot, but the cinematography, the color, it's very reminiscent of the shot where Kylo is facing Luke, and the one side is darker, the one is brighter, and it's the perfect Star Wars scene. This was that. And then, when they all start coming in and offer backup, and you see, the Sorcerer and the other, just pretty much everybody you can imagine other than the TV characters. It was
it's also that typical, it's the darkest before the dawn moment.
Exactly. Yep. Black Order obviously was there doing their fight, which they were doing what they needed to.
I say Corvus got flipped like a burger by Okoye.
Yeah, he did.
Run straight into us. Okay.
But the second loudest pop that I thought just nonstop, the A-Force buildup. Ooh.
I love that moment.
Ooh.
We didn't sit there, and I was so surprised because you can tell these were the real fans, and this would even happen both times we saw the movie, that it's Peter's just how are you gonna do it? You're just by yourself. And mind you, Captain Marvel could have just done exactly what she did.
I was gonna say, it's Peter, did you not just see what she just did when she came in? There's a reason why they all shot her.
And she really could have done it alone. And I love the fact that it's no, she's not alone. And then it really makes you stop and think, oh my God, there are so many women.
Yep. And everyone's saying they have a problem. It's the problem is leading the movies. They don't have a problem with the characters.
No, not at all. And how about showing us that Scarlet Witch was about to kill Thanos without a problem? He had to sacrifice his team just to be able to get away from her.
This is why I stand Scarlet.
Dude,
Witch.
she's so good.
She's my girl, and that was that's probably like one of my favorite moments.
It was
where she just walks up and it's like, you took everything from me. It's like, I don't know who you are, and it's like, you will.
Oh, you will.
That's such a good moment. It's just like, you know, she could have done this by herself.
Yeah, she could have.
And especially, and it helps you kind of show and see how much her emotions run her power.
So it sets up her the WandaVision show without really telling you it sets it up.
Right. And like, if you want an example of her power that they built us up, because I saw some people complain it's out of nowhere. Vision can phase through stuff, and she literally sends him like to the mantle of the earth by pounding him through the floor in Civil War. And that's also something she loved.
Just watch Age of Ultron.
Yeah, yeah.
When she loses Pietro, she decimates half of Ultron's army, then rips his heart out for fun.
Yep.
Like...
And remember, there was things when they were like, oh, how powerful are these characters going to be? And Scarlet was like, oh, you know, it's like Scarlet Witch is the most powerful character we're ever going to have. No, but nobody was upset about those. But Captain Marvel somehow got the blame. But, you know.
This is all...
Exactly. Like, dude, I love the A-Force build-up. That's one of the best scenes I've seen in a comic book movie. Like, complete nerdgasm.
Like just that entire bit, like the whole, because it doesn't focus on the fight. It focuses on like the tension and like the anxiety of them getting the stones to that van.
Yep.
It's like, we have to do this. Like the fight's not the focus. It's literally just get this thing here.
Can anybody find an ugly brown van?
When that horn goes off, it's like, wow, like, it's just the fight for the universe, and there's that La Cucaracha playing in the background.
I have to say, like, something I loved though with Peter. Is when he has the stone or he has the gauntlet and he's like, all right, I got it, let's go, and he's trying to still introduce himself to everybody. Because it's like, here he is with Valkyrie, he's like, hi, blah, and I'm like, you kid, like,
oh, so good.
He wants to be everybody's friend, and he wants to know who his team is.
He's still so new. He thinks they all know each other, which is not completely true. You know, he's like, he probably thinks he's like the most outsider. It's well, not quite, because the Guardians or the morons, you know, there they are.
And also, like, and another nice little payoff for that Civil War. Black Panther remembered Clint's name.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just like, moment. It's like, you did care.
Yep.
He's like, I just didn't care in that moment. Just that moment, because we had to fight.
I was honestly expecting a Secret Wars 2015 moment when he's like, give me the gauntlet. I'm just like, they're not going to do it. There's no way they do that. It's like, they didn't actually do it. It's like, but you should have, like, maybe have, like, just tempted it, but no.
Right, yep.
And then he just starts running through everything like a bus.
Oh my god. Because anything that hits him, it just absorbs, and he goes boom, boom.
It was pretty damn awesome.
And then you get Spider-Man riding Mjolnir. No.
Oh my gosh, that was hard. So, let's actually talk about that.
What, Cap lifting the hammer?
America lifted the hammer. So we sat there and we had a discussion of being like, so when it came to Age of Ultron and they were playing the ego game of who can move the hammer, he knew he could move it, but didn't want to.
Or is it a case of he could move it, but because he was not telling Stark about and killing his parents.
That's like, exactly where I'm at. Like, that's why he couldn't move it, but couldn't lift it until he...
As a Tony Stark stan, because like till the day I die, like, that's my reasoning. Like, it'll never be anything but.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's there. I think that's it. And that was such a great moment. Like, when he pulls that hammer, because you had to have known it was coming, and when he lifts it, oh, good lord, that payoff, though.
Does he lift it up, or does he call it to him?
No, he lifts it up. He picks it up, or you see it lifting. Then he throws it, and then when it comes back to him...
when he does the Avengers Assemble yell. So, yeah.
And not before he kicks the shit out of Thanos with it, though.
Okay, that's true, too.
Which is also another nice little callback to Avengers 1, when Thor hits the shield and it makes a shockwave.
Yep.
He uses that against Thanos to knock him over.
Well, Cap also does like the same bouncing motion with the shield that he does in the first Avenger where he's running. Where he bounces it off like a side thing and then behind. I was like, damn, like it's like
he's so good with that shield. Like they nailed how he uses that thing.
Yep.
I love that Thor even said, "I knew it."
He's literally everyone in that moment. It's just like, I knew he could do it.
Yeah, and I like also the scene that he holds Stormbreaker. And then
You
Thor
get the
has
little
Mjolnir. He's like, no, you get the little one. Go away. I get my sword. And it's really amazing to see both of them working together, and the fact that here he is with the hammer, and a lot of people are complaining. It's like, well, Thor had all of the power of the lightning. Why could he? Because his father even stated it. I think it was in the Dark Worlds or in the original, that the reason why he had his hammer was to help him focus his lightning within. But if you noticed, when he had the hammer, he had to go from above and then shoot it through. And that was the same way that Cap had it. He didn't have lightning inside of him. He brought it from above and then redirected it. Like,
there's also a couple of other little hints. Like, the lightning's not as strong as Thor's.
Yup,
Like,
exactly.
it's very thin. It's not as bright. And also, Thor does call in the lightning or like the thunderclouds at the start of the fight.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
You know, when he's like just that dual wielding moment. Like,
Oh, yeah.
A lot of like little visual storytelling. So.
Oh, yeah, definitely a lot of that stuff, which was really handled very, very well. Which then kind of brings us to the end of the movie. Obviously, we're not going to talk about where it goes with each character. Once again, for the main podcast, the big thing that's kind of, I guess, to end the spoiler cast is the funeral.
Oh my god,
that was heart-wrenching.
The last like 20 minutes, I just couldn't.
Same.
I can barely now. Like I can.
Yeah.
Actually, I could cry now about it.
like,
But just the way he like. It's just to interrupt. Sorry. Like the way they end Tony, like literally end him, and he's like, "I am Iron Man." Like it starts with that and it ends like that. It's just.
And I love that how Pepper, she sat there and she basically tells you early on, like, what's going to kill him.
Oh, yeah.
The movie tells you that people are going to die. Like,
watching it a second time, it's so foreshadowed heavily. Like, and Tony knows. He knows the moment it starts. He's like, I'm the sacrifice. Like,
and how she sits there and she's like, will you rest? And now she ends it with, you can now rest. We're all safe.
Mm-hmm.
And he just smiles because he knows they are.
And for the people that know me on this podcast, I'm not an Iron Man fan from the comics. Like you know, I have certain characters I like more, and it's the Captain America archetype, obviously, you know, but goddamn, like, even if he's not my favorite, you know, I still have Iron Man 3. I think that's like a masterpiece of a movie, but this movie, like, Iron Man shines every which way. And when he dies, when they cut to Peter, man,
I watched this and I came back and I told you this movie had intent behind it.
Yeah,
like they said, I think it's not to make people cry or do this. It's like bollocks. You do not have a reverse of Infinity War where it's Tony dying now and Peter like bawling his eyes out. You do not do that without wanting people to cry.
Yep.
Just everybody crying after, like, Pepper gives the kiss and you see everyone else and the battlefield goes quiet almost. Like, it's amazing to see that. And then you have his little video recording.
Right. Oh my god, that was perfect.
I love you 3000. It's like
what
that kid literally solidifies the stakes for both movies.
Yep. And let's not forget, Happy Hogan manages with Marvel Studios to make product placement a gut-wrenching burger moment. What the hell? How? Like,
Are you hungry? Yeah, what do you want? Cheeseburgers. I'm gonna get you all the cheeseburgers. You know your daddy loved cheeseburgers too. It's like,
dude, brutal.
And a lot of people are like, "Oh, who was that random kid?" It's like, it's Harley Keener from Iron Man 3.
So good.
Yeah.
Good payoff there too. What else I got, like, you know, out of this is Marvel Studios did the unimaginable. They killed their poster boy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, without Iron Man, you do not have... Marvel would be dead by now had Iron Man not been a success and put it on Disney's radar. You know, Bob Iger even said they were looking at Iron Man as the potential future, but Marvel signed that deal, so they had to pay off that deal for the Avengers. Like, it's all down to Iron Man. And the statement of kill him off and build up the next generation, that's unreal. Like, that's just... You can't imagine that a big studio would do that, but... You know, there was that interview with the Russo brothers where they said they sat in front of the board at Disney and they put up all the characters and what the budget was, and then, you know, what it was going to be after that, and Tony wasn't on it, and they were like, sign off on that, because they saw the vision fulfilled. It's like, that's insane. That is just from a standpoint of a bunch of investors to all agree upon that. That's unreal almost. Like, I don't know how to describe it, you know?
I just, like, it's been, what, 22 movies in 11 years? I still can't believe it was Iron Man.
Yep.
No, it's...
I mean...
I don't know. I feel like little 5-year-old me watching that cartoon from the 90s feels a lot of vindication right now.
Yeah. Like, that was one of my first things I watched in the US too. That and the Spider-Man cartoon. Like,
yep.
Oh my God. So much payoff. So, obviously... We're going to save a lot for the upcoming podcast, which you guys should check out right after this. But we'll be back and wait for the audio commentary, which that'll be a 3-hour epic, literally.
Yep.
And it's going to feel like an hour long because the movie doesn't feel long.
No, it did not feel 3 hours.
I got in there early, like you can tell from the picture I took of the screen, because
that was the dead. Captain Marvel showing, you liar.
No, that was Infinity War. Not Infinity War. But yeah, I got there like 20 minutes early, and then it was full. The only seats that were empty were disabled ones.
Yeah. Yep.
Which they never usually go for where I am, but...
Oh, craziness. So, yeah, join us, guys, for the full-on audio commentary when we do it, and we'll be talking about Endgame plenty for the future, because there's a lot.